everyone, I'm Miss Mark. Welcome to another video. In case you're new here, I'm a comic artist and this is a panel from my series Dazer and Eleanor, which you can read for free on Webtoons, and I've got a link to it in the description down below. Oh my gosh, this panel, really the whole episode, but this panel. Every once in a while as a comic artist, you have these panels that remind you why you became a comic artist. A lot of the panels, when you're drawing a comic, a lot of the panels are just to move the story, you know, they're like more functional. You don't want every panel to be the most important panel. What I've kind of discovered is like you should have these panels that are kind of like your high points, like the important panels where, you know, that they have a stronger impact. And then you have a lot of panels that are just to create flow and progress. I don't want to call them filler because they do perform a function. They move the story along, but not every panel is essential. So anyway, occasionally you have these panels that require a bit more emphasis and a little bit more attention, and every once in a while you have a panel that just packs an emotional punch that matters to you as the author, and it's like an important panel in terms of the pacing and the storytelling, and you just get to like focus on it and get lost in it. And I don't know, just this panel, I was looking forward to it the whole time, and then once I started inking it, I was so happy. Like, this was very much my comfort zone kind of panel. And yeah, panels like these are the moments that I need that are like, oh yes, this is why I make comics. This is why I want to make comics. This is why I want to share comics. Like, this matters to me. And I don't want to spoil the story in case you're a new viewer here and you haven't read the comic, but this was a comic moment, like this, not just this panel, but this episode was something I've been building towards for literally years. In the comic, it's only been a few weeks, but in real life, it has taken me years to get my characters to this point. And we'd finally gotten here, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have been dreaming about this for so long. So this panel was incredibly emotional for me in a good way, and really just made my heart feel full. And then on top of that was my readers' reactions, because this episode is out, you can see it. It's a little bit of a spoiler if you skip straight to this episode in season 4, but it's out there. So I got to see my readers' reactions to it, and the reaction was overwhelmingly positive, and not even overwhelmingly, it was exclusively, unanimously positive, and everyone was so excited, and everyone liked the way that I wrote the characters and the dialogue for this important plot point, this moment in the story. So not only was I just like intensely emotionally invested in this episode, but it had pretty solid payoff. Like, my readers felt the emotions that I wanted them to feel as intensely as I wanted them to feel. When you're working on something that's a series, like a comic, webcomic, or graphic novel or whatever, you have so much, like, what I would call emotional downtime, where you're just kind of in the grind, you're just putting out work and making the story move. You like I said, you can't make every single moment emotionally intense, but it does kind of just drag, and you're kind of like, is this getting boring? Does this really have purpose? Am I spending too long on these quote unquote boring parts? You know, it's a lot of work that doesn't see a payoff until you reach moments like this. So yeah, when I sat down to edit this video and I was rewatching the footage, this is one of the few panels that I enjoyed watching. Normally I don't rewatch my own inking because that's tedious. I love inking. I don't love watching myself ink because I would rather be inking. But this panel, watching it, I was like, oh, I was feeling some feelings while I inked this. I'm still proud of the panel. I'm proud of the way this panel came out. So this one still makes me happy. So speaking of like the intense emotion that I felt in that that episode, I thought I would just mention something that I've learned in the past, I don't know, past year and a half, is to basically not rely on my emotions anymore when I draw. And it's been a tricky balance because, let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. When you first start drawing, it's probably from like a state of emotion. Like when you're little, you just feel inspired to draw, or it feels fun, or there's some visual thing that sparked your inspiration and you're trying to replicate that. Like I feel like art very much starts off as like an emotional pursuit, and I don't think there's anything wrong if it stays that way for you. It's just something you do to release an emotion or to process an emotion. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That being said, if you decide that you want to pursue art and you kind of want to ground it a little bit, is how I think of it. You want to tame it a little bit. It's kind of like the difference between appreciating nature and then wanting to have a garden. There's nothing wrong with going for a walk in nature and just enjoying what's out there. However, if you want to have a garden, you need to learn a little bit about plants. You need to learn what makes them work. You're gonna have to be a bit disciplined, and there's nothing wrong with either of those, being a gardener or just being someone who goes for a walk. What I've been learning ever so slowly is how to balance like the more emotional or inspirational side of art with the more disciplined, craftsman-like approach to art. And over the past year, I have really tried to exercise and develop my discipline muscles and be better about keeping my own personal deadlines, because I'm very bad at that. If I am the one who set the deadline, then in my mind it's basically doesn't even matter. So over the past year, I think I've gotten a lot better at that. But what I have discovered that now I'm trying to fix is if I don't have a specific goal or deadline or purpose for art, it's kind of hard for me to sit down and draw. So in the last couple of months, I've tried to get better about just like sketching, and it's so hard. Like if I have a pencil and paper in front of me, my mind immediately goes to I should be drawing my comic. And I want to draw my comic, so it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's like my brain does not know how to just play around with art anymore. And I don't know, it's a hard balance, because the downside obviously is maybe I can't draw quote unquote for fun anymore, and that is a downside. But then when I reach panels like this, when I ink something that matters so intensely, the only way I got to this panel was by kind of dredging my way through all the other panels that didn't feel as emotionally gratifying. But that allowed me to reach this point, so there is a downside to focusing really intensely on your discipline, but it's not all downsides, that's for sure. So anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to share that I'm still juggling between emotional gratification in my art as well as like discipline and dedication and industriousness. I don't know. That being said, I am getting a little bit better about sketching. I try to have it out, like have my sketchbook out at least once a day. I'm getting there. But I would be interested to hear what you guys think. Is it possible to work too hard on art? The answer is yes. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I was able to keep you company, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.